Shegun Fatuma, good morning. Rochelle White, Mayowa. It's now Mayowa Viva, right? Good. No more precise. Okay, we will note that. Comfy here. Obi Ojimadu. Lola Shorunke. Ladi Shorunke. Caroline Shorunke. Rasmussen. I'm so sorry that I came a little bit late today, so let's start immediately. Today I'm going to be talking about parenting children of between the age of 3 to 7. Parenting for children between the age of 3 to 7. Sorry for the lateness. I'm so busy here. I'm doing so many things this week at the same time. So sorry for that. Parenting for children between the age of 3 and 7. Now, let's start with 3. 3 years old child that is the beginning. And before I begin, let me say, let's go and share the link first. Please, let's go share the message. Please quickly go and look for the share button and share the message as we begin. 3-year-old is already a very serious age for the parents to begin to pay attention to the children. From the age of 3, that is already no more, it's already a different matter altogether. It's already a different approach. At the age of 3, your child is already getting to be adult gradually. The stage of development of the child intensifies and it goes to another level altogether. So what are the main changes that happen in the life of a child at the age of 3? The main change is that the child begins to by himself see differences. The child begins to recognize himself. It begins to Oluwa Fumilayo said, parenting children between age and 7. Okay, yeah, from the age of 3. I would rather say, from the age of 3 to 7. Anyway, so the child is already, the most important thing that happens to a child at this age is that it begins to recognize the difference. It begins to see a difference. It begins to see the law of difference. It begins to see the major difference between him and the rest of the people. It begins to see the difference between life, between his hands and his legs, between his eyes and his ears, between himself and his parents, between his mother and his father. It begins to differentiate matters, and not just differentiate them by seeing them in the physical or with his eyes, but it begins to differentiate them by actually taking cognizance of them, by differentiating them consciously. Then the next thing that happens in the life of the child is that the child, because he's now able to differentiate and distinguish himself and recognize himself, it begins to also demand recognition for himself. A child at 3 years old begins to demand, that people count with his interest. So the next thing is that a child begins to, to not physically demand for his own rights, but in his behavior. So he begins to be stubborn a little bit. And what he's trying to say that way is that pay attention to me. I also have some right, count with my interest and things like that. So a child begins to demand his own interest and also demand his own independence. He wants to do things independently. He wants to go ahead of the mother, for example, ahead of the parents, or he wants to go out to a place the parents don't go. So 3-year-old is the stage when a child begins to have his own life and begins to lay claim to his own personality. That is very important to notice because almost all parents will normally keep on treating a child like a baby, even at that point, at that age. They still keep on looking at they still keep on treating that baby, treat that child as a baby, that is still a child, he doesn't see anything, he doesn't know anything. But in the real sense, he knows a lot of things already. He begins to differentiate a lot of things. So if you treat him as a child, that child will grow up feeling himself neglected. That child will grow up feeling that he will not be able to develop his strength, his advantages. So if you keep on neglecting a child at this time, that child will grow up unconfident. He will not be confident of himself. He will not be confident of what he needs to do. He will grow up a weakling. But if the parents are wise enough not just to, keep on seeing him as a child at 3 years old, but to begin to pay special attention to him and to begin to develop him. So, that is a stage where we need to specially develop the child and help him to independently develop. So you have to, create an atmosphere whereby the child will be happy, will be developing by creating the atmosphere for him to develop. He himself will now be paying more attention or making more efforts to know a lot of things, because he's not just curious now, but he's also saying things that he wants to do, that he would like to do. So you want to give him the freedom, the openness, and create the environment for him to be able to do a lot of different things. So this is a time for creativity, for experimentation, for different things that could be performed by that child, because he's seeing the whole world. He understands everything he's seeing around him in the environment, and he wants to try himself. He wants to experiment and see what he can do. He wants to try himself to do things with his hands. He wants to try himself to do things with his head. He wants to try to do a lot of things by himself, and he wants to especially try to distinguish himself in conversations and in fellowship. So that's why a child at this age talks a lot. He talks a lot and asks a lot of questions. Because he's trying to distinguish himself and declare himself and manifest himself as an individual entity. So at this stage, a child already knows what he wants. He already has his own desires. So this is the stage where a child's will comes into force. He begins to express his will more freely, more boldly. And he expects, actually at 3-year-old, a child already expects the parents to support him and to give him that freedom for him to, be able to act more freely, to support his desires, to support his choices, because he begins to make choices at this time, at 3-year-old. So what you need to do is, to make sure that you support that child, you create the atmosphere for him, and you don't enter into conflict with the baby. Give him more freedom whereby he could express himself. Give him more understanding. Let him. This is an age where you need to help the child to come to individuality, to identify his individuality, and to help him to be more active. So you have to help him to be as active as possible as well. So what are these areas that you want to pay attention to as parents? You want to pay attention to making him to study intellectually. So in our own family, for example, I've already told you what you do with, what we did with children between the age of 0 and 3 years old. But from 3 years old, I said I would tell you how to do it today. So in my family, frankly speaking, I would say my wife did more with our children, and we always did more with our children between the age of 0 to 3. I was always creating an atmosphere of love and warmth and acceptance and joy and peace and security. That those things are just the creating of the atmosphere. That's what I think that most fathers have to do between this age. Be it creating those atmosphere both for the child and for the wife. But from the age of 3, I think it should be a new season in the life of that child. From the age of 3, the father should now take the leadership in rearing the children. The role of the father should now be prominent from the age of 3. So, like in my own case, from the age of 3, that is when I started having my organized, my structured system of upbringing for the children. So at the age of 3, I began to have personal responsibility for the children. In what sense? I will make sure that every single day, apart from the fact that mom prays with them in the night, or I pray with them in the night before they sleep and read stories to them, apart from that, I will find a time that I, as the father, just when they are still 3 years old, between the age of 3 and 5, I spend between 30 minutes to 45 minutes. So a child, 30 minutes, he has to be with me. I put him on my head, I do that all the time anyway, but this is different, and I want you to pay attention. This is what I call the role of the father is to establish values. So this is the stage where the value system has been established. The core character in the core values is being established, and character is being established in the baby. This is where goal and purpose is being formulated for the child and all that. So how do I do that? I make sure that apart from the playing time that we have and all that, that I have a fixed time. So let's say 6 o'clock in the evening, or let's say 8 o'clock in the evening. Whenever I come back, I make arrangement with the baby or with the child from the age of 3 to the age of maybe 12. So I make arrangement with them that every day when I'm around 8 o'clock in the evening, we are meeting together. We meet together. For the child that is smaller, let's say 3 years old, I sit together with that child, and we have to have a subject matter that we're addressing. Let's say I take a book. One of my books, and I enter maybe I open a chapter on responsibility. So I say, this week we are studying responsibility. But I'm not doing this as a classroom. I'm making them to sit anyhow they want. Some of them sit on my, the small ones sit on my neck. Some of them sit on my lap. When they are now 3, of course. But when they were 1, it's just me and him. He sits on my lap. And we talk for 30 minutes. I make him to talk. So we open the subject. I will read. When they are still small, I do the reading. I read a whole 1 page of the chapter or of the subject. I read it out, and then I stop and we just do dialoguing. So we actually I teach them by dialogue and by interaction. So you say, okay, what have you read now? What is responsibility? How does it work? And all those things. So I will still get to the topics that you are supposed to formulate in your children later on during this week. So, but from topic to topic, every week in, week out, as a father, I make sure that I build into each child the value system. I like a nail. I just keep on nailing it, driving home the nail. So that is how you form the character of a child. That is how you form the value system of a child. That is how you form the core in a child. But it has to be basic. It has to be constant. It has to be, fun, so that they will enjoy it, so that they will be looking forward to it. You give them assignment, you ask them things, you make them to make some notes, you ask them questions, you joke with them. So it's both a playing time, and it's a fun time, and it's also a time of learning, but not learning like in school. You shouldn't do it like in school so that they are not bored. But it should be, learning like they are, resting with you, they are having fun, they are growing, and is inculcating. So it is at this stage of life that you want to, to put the best qualities, and that is when the best things could be drawn into that child. So what a child becomes is what you put into that child between the age of 3 to 7. So between the age of 3 to 7, these are very important. That is when the whole destiny of the child will be decided. This is when you are, putting the things in the child that child will become eventually. So so one of the areas that we want to talk about and work on is the area of value formation. The second one is the area of character formation. The third one is the area of self-development. All those goals that I mentioned to you, the purpose, I spoke about the purpose of child rearing, or the purpose of parenting. So all those things you want to now begin to put them in order, but it has to be systematic. It has to be systematic. It has to be intentional. So you put on TV, no TV, nothing, just you and them, one-on-one. Just you and them. So a father is the core. That way you are acting as the foundation of the family. That way you are bringing in protection. That way you are bringing in security. That way you are acting as the pillar. That way they are seeing your example. And that way you are bounding. Or you are bonding. You are bonding as well. And that way you are affirming them also. You are talking about every sphere of life to them. You are answering their questions. Just when you just sit down. So that's what I meant, that parenting has to be structured. Parenting has to be purposeful. It's not just when you just say, "Oh, come here. Who did I call? Did I not tell you not to go there? I told you not to go there. I will beat you. I'll beat you. Oh, okay. Come and greet. Oh, hello. Charles, come and greet daddy. Come and greet mommy. Say good morning, mommy. Okay, thank you. Good boy. Good boy. Oh, you look good today. You are dressing today. Oh, why did you go there? Did I tell you not to go there? Those are just emotional outbursts kind of display. That is not upbringing. That is not how to rear a child. That's not how to bring up a baby. To bring up a baby successfully, and for you to bring up a baby in a predictable manner, you've got to make it purposeful. You've got to make it structured, and you've got to make it the way I'm saying right now. Even if you don't have a husband, make sure you as a single mother have that time when they know it is holy time. It's not just the time of prayer, when you just say, okay, let's pray before night. This one is different from the prayer time. The prayer time is before they go to bed. We'll still go and pray. Either I pray with them or their mother pray with them. So their mother is mainly praying with them, reading the Bible with them in the morning or in the evening. But the one I'm talking about is what the father has to do. It's a time where the father is affirming his child and his children. It's a time when the father is establishing in them the cultures and the values of life. It's a time when you are forming in them the core qualities of a human being. It is when you are forming their worldview, when you are forming their paradigm for life and the way they see life in general. Okay, that's number one. That's the most important thing you could do. Another thing you have to do at this age, from the age of 3, is you develop their mind, you develop their thinking faculty. So make them read, give them, read with them, make them think, and especially in our place, I make my people, when we are meeting like that, to develop thinking capacity, to develop critical thinking, analytical thinking, strategic thinking. I ask them questions, we discuss, we go up and down, we give assignment, I just develop them, answer questions, they answer questions and all that. So the next thing you want to pay attention to at this stage is to pay attention to developing their memory as well. Next one, the next thing you want to pay attention to develop in them at this stage is to bring out of them or develop in them attention, cause them to develop concentration, focus. So these things, there are a lot of grown-up people who don't even have concentration or focus because they were never developed. They couldn't develop themselves, and when they were children, it was not developed in them. But you can help your child or your children to already develop them, especially between the age of 3 and 7. That's the best. But it could still go on between the age of 7 and 12. you can still, it's still not late between the age of 7 to 12. You can still put this system in your family. It's not late at any age, but it's better at this time. So another thing you want to develop in your child at this time is the ability to study. You want to develop in him the ability to study. You want to develop in him the qualities of self-development. Next thing you want to develop in a child at this point is the ability to speak. You want your child to be fluent, to be vocal, and to be you want him to be fluent at this point. And how do you do that? By asking them questions, by allowing them to defend their thoughts and their opinions, and by giving them topics to address, to talk about. You know, you develop them in them also boldness, the ability to speak their mind, the ability to defend their position, and the ability to, present the idea before people and not be intimidated. Another thing you want to develop in them at this point, maybe the mother will have to do this, is the ability to look after themselves. So from the age of 3, begin to tell them about the need for them to take care of their room, to be able to clean after themselves, to be able to remove all the toys from the room or from the places where they are trying. If they finish eating, begin to tell them to take the plates themselves. The next thing you want to develop in them at this age is the ability, I'm talking about the age of 3, right now it's the age of 3. You want to begin to teach them to work and to love work. You want to begin to tell them, give them assignments, tell them to help their mother in the house, in the kitchen, and everywhere in the home. So all these are the major things that you want to begin to pay attention to as a parent in the life of your child. So because at this time it's probably the most important stage in life when you can put the very same values that you want to see in them when they are grown up in them. If you keep on relating to that child as a little baby, you miss the point. You miss the chance when you could have, because this is the time they respond the most. This is the time that God has made them to open. They are maximally open at this time. So either you just leave them you leave them alone and they just wander everywhere without having anything structured and systematic in their mind. Then that is who they become in life. Later on in life, they just become wanderers through life. And it's difficult for them to become serious. It's difficult for them later on in life to become purposeful. It's difficult for them later on in life to become goal-oriented. And you just wonder, why is this child so sluggish? Why is he not studying well? Why is he, not having passion? Why is he not having goal? Because you did not put those things at the very time that God intended those things to come. And that is from the age of 3. That's from the age of 3. So at this time also is a time when it begins to speak. A child begins to speak, but it begins to speak much more freely. Before maybe it was saying papa, mama, good, all those things. But now you also want to help him to develop his vocabulary. You want to help him to develop his vocabulary by maybe reading books together with him, like I said. Maybe some of those things, like I said, I was spending time with my own children from that age, but maybe you want to also make them to read, not just for you to read, but make them to read as well. And he's also going to be copying. At this age, the child will be copying your language, the child will be copying your accent, the child will be copying the way you walk, and he will be repeating the kind of words that you are speaking. So at this point, it's better for you to constructively put things in order so that your child could learn the best of things. So read together with him. Let him read, you read out to him, and take some things to do some things together with him, like playing together, drawing together. Put all the things that could help him to develop better. At this time, it's not just enough for the child to develop mentally and be able to think. You also want to develop in him the ability to form creative thinking. creative thinking, whereby he could draw some things, he could build some things, he could create some things with his hand. So you want to develop different kind of abilities in that child. Like I said, the engineers, they discover themselves about this age. So let him break some things and put them together again. Let him watch cartoons, but those has to be creative cartoons. And let him experiment himself. You can begin to look at what are the things that are interesting to him at this point, and just give him the full freedom to be able to experiment and to develop himself in all kind of creative thinking. But at this time, you already want to begin to listen to him as well and look out for him and see where his interest goes. So instead of you just telling him what to do and determining everything to him, don't become a dictator for him at this time. At this time, let him begin to already show what he wants and where his desires are, and just support him, support those desires. Go after what you see that he has tendencies towards, and then just follow him and support him in that particular thing. So what are the advice I would like to give to parents at this stage? Number one, as parents at the age of 3, if you have a child that is 3 years old, know that your biggest role, how should you behave? Your biggest role as a child at this time is to help. You are now helping, because the child is already developing and manifesting himself. So like I said, at this age, your baby is differentiating between himself and the rest of the world, and is initiating some things that are already built in him, and is drawn towards some things naturally. So you help discover those directions where he's been drawn to, and help him to feel free to express himself better in those particular areas that you see, and create the atmosphere for him as well, whereby he could express himself better, and he could see his taste, his interest, and his views. So we want to make sure that we pay attention to his opinions. We help him to develop his views. We put the right value systems in him. We want to see where he's showing his interest. We want to observe him more, and we want to encourage him in those areas where he's showing his taste and views and interest. So next thing that you want to do as a child, as a parent, is to know that your most important, one of the most important things you're supposed to do is to realize that child, even though he's just 3 years old, is already thinking of self-fulfillment. It's already thinking of self-fulfillment. So create the environment for self-fulfillment for him. Look for every form of things that could help him to manifest himself and to fulfill himself, and let him see as many possibilities as possible, so that he could express himself better, and that will help him to be able to identify what particular thing he's called to do in life. So even though the child begins to show curiosity from the age of 1, but at this stage that curiosity grows. You want to taste everything. This is the time when his brain and his mind develops to the best, to maximum. So another thing the parent could do at this time is to help the child to know the world, to discover the whole world. Give him the possibility of discovering as many scope of life as possible, At this age, it is good to provide opportunities for the baby to be able to maybe draw some things or build some things. Like we spoke about Lego yesterday, you want to have some of those things, construct things, take things together, make things happen. And, you want to also provide opportunities for him to speak more, to memorize and, to remember things more, to use his mind better, to read more, and to develop his thinking faculty more. But one of the most important things you want to also make sure that you attain and for your child at this age is the ability for him to view himself right. For him to know that he's respected, for him to know that he's treated as a personality, as a person, not as a child, as a baby, but as a person that is respected. You begin to treat him as a human being. Don't compare him to other children, and don't be, because that could begin to form inferiority complex in him, and you could begin to put him down at this point, and it could affect him for the rest of his life. But 3-year-old is a time when you could already begin to help him to overcome some obstacle. I teach him to overcome challenges, to resolve issues by himself, to become more independent, and to get answers and to be focused. By the way, if you have not yet shared the link to this message, I think it's very important. So I'm paying attention to 3 years old because that is a defining moment in the life of a child. So if you have not yet shared the link to this message, please go ahead and look for your share button. You might want to share and look and listen to this message again. Please, maybe it will help you or your children or your grandchildren. It might be able to help you a lot. So help the child to begin to have some results. So let him begin to see some of his results that he's making, that he's getting. Okay, next stage, next group I want to talk about is between the age of 4 and 5. What is the things you need to know as a parent? How do you parent a child between the age of 4 and 5? This period, the age of 4 and 5, is a little bit more quiet. It's a little bit more quiet period. Is also important, but not quite as important at the age of 3. But it's a little bit quiet. The child is just manifesting more of what is started to manifest at the age of 3. So at the age of 4 and 5, the child keeps on growing, and he keeps on having a need for himself for self-expression. So a child keeps on having the need for self-expression. He wants to express himself still. He wants to, be able to do more things. He's doing all the things that he was doing the same way he was doing them at the age of 3. He's getting to know his environment better. He's getting to differentiate his environment better. He's beginning to differentiate himself and other people, but not just differentiating that this is father, this is mother, or this is me, but he's also beginning to differentiate the difference in people's feelings. So he now knows when people are angry and when they are happy. He now begins to know when people are smiling and when they want him to respond or not. He now begins to know people's mood, people's feeling, people's body language. He begins to differentiate more detailed. Before you could differentiate it by this is my brother, this is my sister, this is my mother, this is my father. But now he begins to differentiate and understand people's feelings, begins to understand and even feel for people, begin to understand what people want from him, not by talking alone and not by touching alone or something, but even by looking at them, by observing them. He begins to understand more in details what is going on around him. He begins to understand life as well, not only through teaching and not only through hearing and seeing, but by feeling, by sensing, by intuition. And he also begins to understand life more by example. So at this age, it is important for a child also to see good example. He begins to observe and see what people do and just repeats after them and follows them automatically. So at this point in the child development, they remember more not what you say to them or what you teach them, but what they see, what they observe. So they are learning a lot by observation by this time of their life. Now, at 4 and 5 years old, a child also begins to now desire outward expression. So before, if his whole life was basically between himself and his immediate family, like mother, father, but from the age of 4 to 5, a child now wants to look for other children like him. He wants to, relate to the outside world. A child wants to relate to outside world, with outside world. He wants to look for people he could play with because he's now understanding himself. He's understanding other people. He's differentiating himself. He's differentiating other people. So he's now looking for people of his own age. So at this age, between 4 and 5, will be a good time to let the child be going to kindergarten or nursery, so that he could also find time with his colleagues or with his peers and people of the same age, and begin to share similar feelings and similar interests, and then it will help the child to be able to express himself better with those children and in those environments as well. But this time also, the parents must pay attention to them because they need recognition at this time. They need to be recognized. Their virtues, their values, their identity needs to be recognized, and they also on the level of their subconscious. On the subconscious level, a child at this stage wants to be a child at this level wants to be respected. He's demanding that you recognize him as an identity, as a personality, and begin to respect him. So when you play or when you spend time with them, it's better to use imagery. Use imagery to teach them. Let them see pictures. Let them see images. Let them see. That's why at this age, for example, they like a lot of films, a lot of cartoons, because they are receptive to a lot of emotions at this age, at this time, and they are receptive to a lot of colors, a lot of movements, and so you want to create that atmosphere for them. So at this age, the age of 4 and 5, parents need to you need to begin to teach the children discipline. At the age of 4 and 5, a parent needs to begin to teach discipline to the child and begin to put boundaries. Let a child begin to get to know what is boundary, what is allowed and what is not allowed, what is permitted, what is not permitted. But you should not be too rigid and too firm. Don't make it to become like a law or legality, or what they call it. Don't make it to get like what do you call that word? Yeah. So don't make it to become so rigid and but just put boundaries, but don't make him to feel like if he does something, he's going to die or something like that. Otherwise, he will just be living in fear. You don't want to create fear in that child. Legalistic. You don't want to become legalistic with him. You don't want him to grow up being legalistic or to be living in fear of his parents and of consequences too much. And you don't want him to begin to feel as if he's been overwhelmed by all your demands. So, but at this stage also, you want to create for the child the ability to choose, but to choose the good things. You so always give him the choice. Don't just be telling him what to do, but always give him the choice. So at this stage, if between the age of 4 and 5, you want to begin to tell the child, do you want to do this or you want to do this? What would you like to do? Will you like to rather sit at home now, or you like to go and play outside? Will you like to be with your friends, or you like to watch TV? Do you like, ask for his interest as well. Will you like to, play with your toys or with your car, or you would like to go outside in the compound to play? Do you want to draw now in the album, or you like to read rather? So always, let him begin to give him options, and those options, they make him to begin to develop his ability to choose, and they begin to, develop him in an unusual way. And he begins to see differences. He begins to operate and live by the law of difference, and see and make out to and learn how to make choices, So don't, even if you are going to stop him from doing something, or you are going to prohibit him, always explain to him why you are doing that. Because if you are not explaining to a child why at this age of 4 and 5, you begin to see a lot of anger from him. So this is at this age that you see a child could be disobedient to the parents, could be throwing things at the parents when he wants something, he doesn't get it. He might want to throw things in protest, anger. So at this age, there might be a lot of anger. There might be a lot of frustration expressed by the child. There might also be a lot of withdrawal, depression, protest, actions of protest and frustration and anger. So that's why you want to make him to participate more in all the decisions you are taking. You don't just take all the decisions for him, and you don't just tell him, like a commander or a dictator, but you also let him be aware of what you are doing. Explain most of your actions to him at this age, so that you don't bring out the evil feelings or the bad feelings from him, but but rather the feelings of understanding and the power of choice. Also, at this time, you want to explain to the child to understand his feelings, because he doesn't know what is happening to him. When he's angry, he doesn't know what is happening. He's just expressing himself. But at this time, age of 4 and 5, you want to begin to explain to him his emotions, how to deal with those emotions. Tell him, he shouldn't express his anger that way. How he's supposed to express his anger. How he's supposed to express his frustration. How he's not allowed to express his frustration. How he's supposed to react to other people, to the outside world. How he should deal with the inside, with the feelings he's feeling inside of himself. Let him talk to people. Let him talk to you. Let him know the consequences of his actions and the things that he did. So you could tell him that when you are throwing things at mommy and daddy, or when you are shouting or you are angry, you make your dad feel bad, or you make your mom feel bad, or you anger other people. You didn't count with the interest of your brother and sister. Explain feelings to him. And that, when I tell you that go and sit down there, and I expect you to go and sit down there. I didn't tell you to go and walk around. I didn't tell you to do, tell him the expectations that you expect from him. And tell him what his feelings and his actions are creating in other people, so that he must begin to know at this time that his actions are connected to other people's feelings, and that people also receive him by the things that he does, and that the things that he does are affecting other people and are creating the world around him. Also, when he does things well, let's say he thanks you after eating, let him know, or even if he didn't thank you after eating, let him know that you expect him to say thank you and after eating. And if he removes the things from the table, let him explain to him that, oh, you did very well by removing that thing. by cleaning the table after yourself. Wow, you did well, excellent. So praise him, let him know the importance of what he has done. When you come back from outside and he comes to hug you, tell him, oh wow, I like it when you come out. Or you tell yourself, tell him, come and hug mommy. Mommy just came back from outside. Or go and hug daddy. Daddy just coming back from outside. When you are doing something and it comes to help you, let him know, acknowledge that, oh wow, that is a good thing. When you see somebody doing something, you are helping them. Thank you for helping me, and things like that. When you tell him to obey an instruction and he does them, or he does them on time, let him know that you are happy about it. But when he didn't do them on time also, let him know that no, when I told you to do that, I told you to do that 10 minutes ago and you didn't do it. That is bad. That is wrong. You should do it when you are told to do something. Do it on time. When you do it on time, you know that is what is good. You are going to be encouraged and you are going to be helped. But if you don't do things on time, you are making your mom feel bad or your dad feel bad and things like that. Tell the baby when you are proud of him that you are proud of him. When he's not doing things right, let him also know why you are not so encouraged by what he has done. So, acknowledge the child. That would make him feel more loved. And because for the child to feel loved, it's not just enough for you to say, I love you, I love you, I love you. You have to recognize him in different parts of the society, in different aspects of life on a daily basis. Let him see his good qualities. Let him see his values and his virtues. Let him see what he's doing right. Let him see the things that they need to work on. At this age, 4, 5, the problems and the pressure is not as bad as, when he was 3 years old. But at this stage, it's already easier, but the same things still continue. And you could get him to develop better at the age of 4 and 5. So if you have not yet shared the link, anyone who has not yet shared the link to this message, you might want to do it as fast as possible. Because even if you don't need it for yourself, you might need it for your children or grandchildren. Okay, another thing you want to, as a parent, you want to do to the child at this age of 4 and 5 is to also, help him to develop himself further. To express himself further. You have to pay a lot of attention to his self-value, self-identification, respect, self-esteem of the child is important at this point. You have to let him value himself, respect himself, let him respect his parents. At this point, 4 and 5, he must begin to do more complex things, not just be playing with toys and be playing with things that are in the house, but he has to, have more complex, even when he's playing with things, he has to have more complex articles that he's using to play. He has to do more complex things, more creative, more advanced. He has to be more advanced in the things that he does. But you have a little bit of help here because he's already in school, in kindergarten or nursery, and they begin to, they know how to professionally begin to give some. But you still keep on doing those things I spoke about at the age of 3. The father, the time, you still keep on having that. You can do many things during the day, but you must never miss that period of value formation. The period of value formation and that period of informed parenting. The period of informed parenting is when I say you sit down with them and, if they are small, between the age of 3 and 5, maybe you want to spend between 30 minutes to 45 minutes with them. But as they grow older, by the age of 7, you want to be spending 1 hour with them on a daily basis, every day. If you cannot do it every day, maybe you are not around, let the mother do it. Any one of you that is there, do something about it. Do something about it. So that's more probably the most important part of the life of the child. Not just when it's a 3-year-old, but you must do that value formation, systematic and structured value formation. You must continue to do it till the age of 12 minimum. So at this stage also you want to teach the child to begin to clean after himself, just like he did when he was 3 years old, right? To clean his room, to sleep on time. You want to give him the discipline of when to sleep, when to stop watching TV. You want to put him some border, when to stop watching TV, when to stop watching computer, when to go to bed, when to wake up, how to clean himself, how to begin to take his own bath. You are still helping him, but you help him to wash his teeth himself and things like that. So he's beginning to do some of these things by himself. At this age of 4 and 5, that is when the children keep on asking so many questions. They start asking those questions from the age of 3, but 4 and 5, that's when they begin to say, why this, where is God, where is he coming from, where is mother coming from, where is father coming from, why are you this, why are you this, why is there our home, why are we living here, all kind of questions. And you must try and answer all those questions the more you can. Let them express themselves. Let them discover the world. That is the way they are discovering the world. And that's how they are also discovering themselves, their interests. So be open to them, to talk to them, to listen to them. And even be open to them to discuss the world with them. Be open to discuss the world with them, what's happening in the world around them. And in their own language, explain to them all those things in the language of the child. Okay, so let me remind you of some of the things that you need to pay attention to as a parent at this time. Don't use too much prohibition and legalistic method of. Don't ban them. Don't put too much boundary. You put boundary, but put enough boundary for him to understand what is right, what is wrong. But don't be too solid. Don't break their personality. Number 2, make sure that you emphasize his personality, his identity. Talk to him more about his feelings, his emotions, his personality, himself, and what he's doing, how his actions and in lack of action affect the world around him. What he's doing right, what he's doing wrong. Encourage him, correct him, and let him know exactly what his feelings mean and what his emotions mean. Those different emotions that is manifesting, what do they mean? What do they translate to? How do they affect other people? Tell him about himself and about his emotion. Next point, make sure you lead by example. At this point, the children want to see more what you do rather than what you teach them. Don't just teach them. They are going to be copying you. They are going to be copying your behavior rather than, they will not remember what you say at this point, but they are remembering what you do, and they just automatically copy you as well. You start from the age of 3, but at the age of 4 and 5, that continues also. At this time, you also want to do a lot of listening to him. You want to listen, and you want to be able to answer all his questions. By answering all his questions, you are helping him to discover himself, to discover the world better, and you are helping him to get more confidence and to overcome any kind of fear that might be coming in his mind or in his heart. So next point, don't force anything on the child. Don't force. Let him choose his directions. Let him choose what he wants to do, and just provide the environment, the possibilities, and the expression. Give him the freedom to express and to choose, and just encourage him and direct him right to be able to express himself better. Be truthful to the child. Tell him the truth at this point. Let him know, what are right, what the things that are right and the things that are wrong. Things that he does right or does wrong. At this point, of course, one of the things that the parent must pay attention to is that the child might want to just do what he wants to do. For example, he wants to just watch cartoon. But at this time, you must help him to get a balance as a parent. Help him to get a balance. Help him to know that, no, the time for cartoon is finished. You have been watching cartoon for 1 hour. Now let's go and do something else. Let's go and play outside, for example. Let's go and get fresh air. Or let's go and read some books. Or okay, it's time for us to do our value building time. Or it's time for you to go and help mommy in the kitchen. Or it's time for you to go and welcome daddy. Help him to not to be too carried away, but just by one thing. But help him to also know the importance of time and the importance of moving from one thing to another. Because at this stage, a child just wants to do what he wants to do. And when he finds something that he wants to do, he just sit down there and and just does that thing. And at this time also, a child wants to find fellowship with express himself. He wants to express himself with the outside world. So he wants to find his friends and, colleagues. And so, let him have an environment where there will be other children, where he will be able to express himself and be able to play with them and all that. This time is also a time when you want to encourage the child into self-development. You want to encourage him to read more, to think better, to create, to develop himself, to read, to speak, like all the things that I've mentioned earlier on. And you want to discuss whatever is interested in. You want to sit down and talk with him about these things. Okay, I've committed myself today that I was going to talk to you from 3 to 7 years old. Okay, let me quickly talk about 6 to 7 years old. Should I talk about that today, right now? Okay, let me quickly give you that. My time is up, but let's quickly do that. Okay, so what should you know about 6 and 7 year old child? What are you supposed to know? This is also a very serious stage in the child's development. At the age of 6 and 7, the child gets to a totally new level of growth and development. And he's no more interested so much in the toys and in the drawings and in the things that used to interest him. They are no more interested in him so much. At this age, that is why they let them leave, they let them leave kindergarten and they take them to primary school. So at this stage, a child is about to begin to go to primary school. And it's a new stage. One of the most important stages in the life of a child is 6, especially 7 years old. So he now has to leave the home environment to get adapted. He has to adapt himself to the environment of the world. He has to begin to see the larger world around him. He has to be beginning to feel himself as a social being, as a social human being at this point. So at this time, it's not just a child from a home child or a mommy child or a parent's child, but it's now becoming a part of the society. He's dressed and he's going to school, he's going to primary school, and he has to begin to see the larger world around him. He's now exposed to a bigger number of people, not just to a limited number of people, but it's now beginning to understand that the world is a big place. He begins to see a lot of people around him. He begins to, get exposed to adults, teachers, instructions, everything they used to know before. They begin to take another level for him. He begins to live without the parents, begins to school, spend a large part of his life not with his parents. So this is the beginning of the adult life. This is the beginning of the adult life for the child. For example, let's say a child maybe before then didn't even pay attention to trees before. Now he begins to see trees. He begins to see that trees are moved by the wind. Before he could be thinking that the winds are coming out of the trees, but now he knows that the winds are the ones moving. So he's seeing the world, not just people, not just little things. He's seeing much more greater things. But at this time, the attention span of the baby is much more greater. So he's able to be more focused. He's able to concentrate more. He's able to sit down in a place for a longer period of time. He's no more running about and want to play about and do all the, break everything. And now he can sit down. Now he wants to learn. Now he himself wants to grow. Now he's no more doing what only he wants to do, but now he's able to listen to your instruction and do what you want him to do and follow, and behave and carry out your instruction. So now he's also able to control his emotions, and he's able to control his feelings, emotions, and his will. And then he also wants to grow now. He now knows that there is a bigger world out there than him, and he wants to grow in them. He wants to discover them. And he wants to begin to do something. He wants to express himself. So he knows now that he has not known as much as he thought. He has not discovered that there is a big world there for him to discover. So he begins to strive to begin to learn and grow. So at this time, it is important that you encourage him and begin to talk to him about his future. So at this time, you want to begin to talk to him that he has a future. He goes to school. He has to study well. He has to become that. What school will do for him? The importance of school. What is the calling he has for? At this time, you want to begin to talk to the child about his calling. What is the need for school? Why is he going to school? Because he's here for a purpose. He needs to fulfill that purpose that God has called him to. And you want to give him confidence. You want to begin to talk to him that he's unique. You want to talk to him about his uniqueness, his confidence, and you need to let him know and remind him of all the value systems you have formed him in from the age of 3, so that he's not carried away by what he sees over there, but he remains himself, he respects himself, he does what he needs to do. So you let him know the right opinion about himself. At this time, if before now his influence, his scope of influence were his parents, and his brothers and sisters, but now other people begin to influence him as well. He begins to be under the influence of the teachers. He begins to come under the influence of other students in the school and his peers and the people who are older than him. So you need to, now there are other things that are fighting for the interest of your child than you. So the father, this father still begins to, the father must begin to do more at this stage also, apart from what he's doing. Like I said, the father begins to play more important role from the age of 3 to the age of 15 or 14. But this time especially, because the father begins to take them to school and begin to participate in his events and begin to, so he begins to participate with him outside of the house. The father's role grows at this point. Because then you have to begin to do assignments with him, both inside this class, after the classroom, and in the classroom. The father keeps on doing all the times of personal growth and value forming system after school. You ask him questions: how was school? What happened there? Let him learn. Let him learn to express himself, what he learned from school, and things like that. sometimes a child might find things difficult at this stage because he's used to his freedom when he was in the house, right? When he could run about and do anything he likes, and but now he has to be more used to discipline. So you have to help him. For some children, it's tough for them to switch from the freedom they always had at home to now being disciplined in the school. So you have to help them and explain to them the difference, and help them to know what to expect in the school, that the school is different from home, that they have to listen to the teachers, they have to obey instructions, they have to be less distracted, all those kind of things. Now, even though you are going to encourage your child to study well, but let him know that it's not just his life is not just the class, the marks he gets from school. That his life is not determined by that alone. It's good for him to study well, but his life is not just about education. Let his social life be developed also. Let him know that his relationship with people are important. Let him know that his attitude and his reaction to parents, the respect, honor in the church, to other children, they are as important as his education. So it's not just his education that is important, but it's also self-realization also is important, self-expression. Maybe he wants to do some things, there are some things he would like to do, and let him do it. Let him keep on expressing himself. Okay, let me quickly round up this particular area here. At this time, your son begins or your child begins to go to school, so it is important for the parents to support the child both when he's doing well and he's not doing well. Number two, it's important for the parent to also prepare the child for school, and help the teachers to understand your child better, and help your child to understand the teachers better. Next point, don't just judge your son by his academic and educational prowess. Let him study well, let him do his best, let him learn to do assignments, and let him learn to be the best there, but let him know that that's not all about his life. It could also, other things are important as well. And if he fails, let him know that this is life, and let him, know that he could get better. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. Now, at this point, you want to begin to make more efforts to become friends to your son, because it's now, many people are now fighting for his attention other than you. Before, you are his world, but now the school is going to be his world, his classmates, his teachers, and so you really need to spend more time and be more purposeful in befriending him, explaining things to him, spending time with him, sitting with him, and really hearing him out, asking him questions, and keep on developing him in the value systems that we spoke about before. Make sure you keep on giving him, when he comes home, let him have the freedom of expression to feel himself at home, not just to feel that he has to behave in the house like in the school. Also, you need to keep on supporting him so that he will have a good respect for himself, that he will have, he will respect himself, he will have, good opinion about himself. He will not, he will not feel he's inferior to any of the children in school, but you will let him know that it's important, his actions are important, his choices are important, his opinions are important, and treat him like a human being. At this age, treat him like a grown-up, like like an adult, treat him like somebody you could talk to, and, sit down to have a talk with. Well, I'm trying to make it with my time. I hope you got something today anyway. That's parenting between the age of 3 to 7. This is probably the most important time for parenting altogether. So let me see what you think. If you have shared the link to the message, let me hear your opinion. I want to read some of your comments before we go today. By the way, if you are following my articles on MMM, that's pyramid scheme, you might like. Yeah, I'm sure you will like the article today. The article today is interesting. You might find it interesting to read. So I want to encourage you to go read that article. Sure, my pastor, this marriage parenting business is serious business. Nobody told us these things. Believe me, if I knew these things earlier, I would have ended up a Pauline, female Paul. Okay. TY, I did all that, all my kids, I taught them to read. Anyone remember Queen's Primer? You are so spot on, Dr. Adelaja. That's TY saying that. Omonika said, Pastor Sunday, I used to think that at the age of 5 is the proper time for all the things you are saying. Thanks so much for teaching us this. Gift Amos, at the age of 3, their memory is still empty, so they could download as much as possible. Yetunde said, yes, very important that what are the tendencies? Watch the child and support him. Yep. TY is saying, I knew some things, but Dr. Adelaja, you are revealing a whole new paradigm in this early parenting thing. So my grandchildren are going to gain so much. I'm done with that pushing business. They are going to enjoy. Monica said, Pastor Sunday, self-fulfillment from 3 years old. I thought at this age they are still babies, though we let children at this age be to scrabble on paper and some drawing. Yep. You need to listen to this. All of you need to listen to this over and over again. Yetunde said the worst thing that could happen to any child is to compare them to other children, the cousins, etc. It kills them slowly. Yep. TY is saying, yes, they read our body language. That was about the time I was in the dark place with my son, was 4 months old. One day, he saw me looking so sad and morose. So he asked, what are you doing, Mommy? I said, oh, nothing. I'm thinking. Guess what? One day, he mimics my exact expression. I said, Boo-boo, what are you doing? He looked at me and serious say, I'm thinking. You bet. I strengthened my face since then. Sing along films, educative ones too, but I take the time to find Christian ones. Veggie Tales, Salty, etc. Wow, Dr. Adelaja, you are surely a super daddy. Mayowa is saying, is there any gender distinction in children's growth pattern? Oh yes, but that will come from the children themselves. The girls will be drawn to some things which are more gayish things and female, but the boys will be drawn into some things. So you just have to encourage them where they are drawn to. The girls drawn to girls things, boys drawn to boys things, and you encourage them and create the atmosphere for their expression. TY, wow, Dr. Adelaja, how are we going to tell them to control their anger when the parents too don't control their anger? Acknowledge the child's good deeds and be generous with your praise. It affirms the child a lot and let them know they are loved. Wow, even we adults need a good dose of that. Shioma, God bless you, sir, for sharing this. It's so clear to me now why 50% of people should have no business getting married. This is tough business to marry, and people turn out poorly because of poor parenting. Yes, that's why it's true that 50% of people shouldn't even marry at all because they are not ready. Because marriage and parenting is a serious business. Poor David, Africa, hear the voice of God. Some people curse you out or take you on an express trip to hell because you gave them compliment because it is foreign to them. Parents, you are important. Sandra, Pastor, please, is it right to allow a child of 7 years old to sleep at classmates' house because of one birthday party or the other? Yeah, but you must just make sure that you know that family and you know that every condition there will be proper. Uh, but most of the time, a teacher has to be with them, you know. But if a teacher is not going to be with them and an adult is not going to be with them, then maybe you don't want that to happen. Actually, my husband doesn't permit our kids, mostly our daughters, and we have explained to them that it is our family policy. What do you think about it? You have to be careful with sleeping outside, especially when they are daughters. You got to really be careful. Unless you will go with them or an adult will go with them. Okay, TY, I was banned from strengthening his room actually before he left home. He claimed it was, okay, just. Olushe Idare, may God Almighty continue to rekindle your fresh oil, Pastor Adelaja, as you daily feed us with divine wisdom in this ungodly generation. Akomolafe said, nothing just happens. The aim of Pastor Adelaja is to die empty. So he's doing that, and I'm learning. Neki Okoro, my boys are all grown now. I wish I can go back to their baby age again, although I observe most of these principles, but not all in these details. Olusha, you say, by His grace, I've been recently blessed by spending quality time with my boy. It's not by power. I'm on my knees daily praying for grace and wisdom to handle and give the right answers. TY. Okay, he's saying the life is not just about getting good marks. Ifueko said, Ifueko peace. I have a 5-year and 4-year-old girls, and most times we argue and fight over their clothes and food. They always want to wear dresses and big skirts, even when it's freezing, and I always go extra mile to explain, but why? But my eldest daughter told me 4 weeks ago that she just wants to be her own boss, doing what she wants and not what I want. I just left her immediately and called her later in the evening, and we talk about what she wants. But at the end, I made her realize that I respect what she wants, and I want better things for her because I love her, and she hugged and kissed me. And ever since, when she's going out of way, I remind her of my love for her, and she just blushed, and that's how I get her on track now. Beautiful. Comfy, yeah. God bless you, Pastor Sunday, for teaching more knowledge in how to do the right things in life. These things are things that people don't think about. The world needs to listen to this teaching. God bless you and your family in Jesus' name. Thank you. By the way, those of you who want to come to Kyiv for HMT in January, please write the letters to, I think there's a link here. Follow the link. Write letter to guest@godembassy.org. It's going to be between the 2nd to the 6th of January. Deborah, wow, Dr. Adelaja, I want to believe God shows you for this generation. Not only did you learn the principles of life, but He purposefully opened your skull to put all this for the lost generation so they can go back to their first love and start afresh. May God bless you abundantly. We extol you extremely. Your song shall be loud and clear to the nation of Nigeria. More wisdom and blessings. Thank you. Obi Ojimadu, I have 3 kids between the age of 7 and 12. I've been doing my best and I'm still learning a lot from these teachings. Beautiful. John Lucky, Dr. Adelaja, have you ever flogged or beat your children before? Because sometimes babies act like babies. Oh yes, I spoke about that yesterday, so you must go and listen to yesterday's message. Omonike, Pastor Sunday, thanks so much for this teaching. I didn't listen through, but I will listen later. Okay? I think all of us will still need to listen to this again. Tina Omosekeji, thank you, sir, for this message. It's for me. She's Sandra. Pastor, my kids are between the age of 0 and 11, and with your teachings, more value has been added to me, and I had at the age, more value has been added to me more than the teachings I had at the College of Education. Wow, glory. Obina Ofoshuku is asking, can someone tell me how to put this message to WhatsApp? WhatsApp? I don't know. Maybe somebody knows. So anyway, here we go. And Pastor Sufficient just put the link to our book. So if you have not ordered Pastor Sufficient's book, you can do that now. She's releasing her book this weekend, I guess. Well, it's been nice to be with you. I hope you guys were blessed today and you got something for yourself. Tonight, I will continue to talk about the age of 8 and 9, and maybe till 10 or so. So God bless you. Have a wonderful day and see you tonight. God bless. Bye.